You know, I started off as a kid who had a learning disorder, and so they put me in special education, thinking that I was mentally handicapped. Everybody kept telling me in my life, you're never gonna make it, you're never gonna be able to do this, you're never gonna be able to do that.
Billy, I'm so excited that we're doing this today. As you know, I'm one of your biggest fans. You know,
Well,
we've
thank
talked
you.
about this a lot. Probably sick of hearing it.
No, it's cool.
So you know, to have you on Second Act is really a thrill for me. So thank you for sitting down and talking to us today.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay. Obviously, you're you know, fitness guru. You've done so much. You know, let's start at the beginning. You know, where did Billy Blanks come from?
Well, Billy Blanks was born and raised in Erie, Pennsylvania, you know, a small town. It was a steel mill town where I grew up at, in coal mine town, and my father worked on the railroad. And I got 15 brothers and sisters, 10 brothers and 5 sisters. And my uncle had a garbage business where we would go knock on doors and ask people if they want their trash to be removed. You know, I started off as a kid who had a learning disorder that nobody knew what it was at the time. And
What kind of a learning disability did you have?
it was dyslexia, and didn't find it out until I turned the age of 35. And how I found it out, it was really funny because me and my ex-wife actually drove to a mall, you know, like a little strip mall, and we were sitting there, and it was a karate sign, right? And I tried to read the sign, and when I tried to read that sign, I read it the way I thought it was right, and she said, "Billy, read that sign again. You said it wrong." I said, "No, I didn't. You said it wrong." You know, I'm like, we got like a little bit of argument. And then she said, "No, really, seriously, read that sign again." So I read the sign, and I said it backwards. So that's when I found out that I had dyslexia. And through school, you know, nobody knew what it was. I mean, they put me in they gave me all these tests, and nobody really knew what it was. So, and I was a shy kid on top of having that learning disorder. And because I was a shy kid, they really didn't say too much. People would speak to me, I'd go, you know, I'd just shake my head, not even voice my opinion, you know. And so they put me in special education, thinking that I was mentally handicapped. You know, I was in a room with kids who didn't have arms, some didn't have legs, some just, you know, really, you know, handicapped, you know. And back in those days, they didn't use that polite word, you know. And was a kid named Mark who was handicapped. You know, he couldn't hold his hands and legs right, couldn't walk correctly, but he was a kid that I got pretty close to, you know. We used to get in the swimming pool together, and I used to help him swim, and it just made me feel like as a young kid, young man, that you know, it's about the spirit of a person, and that taught me a lot. And then I started working on it, and I said, you know, I'm not going to be good in school. I knew I was not going to be good in school, because back in those days, I didn't feel like the teachers had patience. You know, because the kids like me, they stuck us all in one room, and they didn't really care if we passed, or, you know, they just wanted us to get through school, and then once we got through school, we out. I always wanted to take martial arts, you know, but at the time we couldn't afford it because, you know, in most martial arts studios, back in those days, it was probably like $15 a month just to take karate. And, you know, that seems like in these days, no money, but in those days, there were a lot of money for our family especially. So my goal was to one day get involved with martial arts, and I was very blessed that a martial arts studio opened up in our neighborhood, and it was a youth center. They built a Martin Luther King Center in our neighborhood. And in that center I got a chance to walk down the street, and I saw this Korean guy and a black gentleman who just got out of the Vietnam War. He was there, and they was practicing karate in the middle of the floor. And I walked in there with a group of, you know, kids we grew up with. And at the time, it was like a little gang called the Black Dragons, right? We really didn't know too much about anything. We was just thinking that we were tough. And when we got down there, I wanted to take martial arts. When I got there, the Korean guy and the American guy came over to the door. They said, "What do you guys want?" And I really, in my heart, wanted to take karate. But I was with these guys, these kids, and they were like, "You can't, that's for wimps. You can't take karate. If you take that, you're a wimp, right?" So I didn't want to say anything. And then the guy said, "You guys want to take some martial arts?" And I go, "No, I don't want to take it." And then everybody else said no. So they turned around and left. We all went home. And when they went home, I went back. And the guy came over to me and said, "Hey, I see you came back. You want to take some at the time, Tong Sudo, which is a Korean style of martial arts?" I said, "Yeah, I always wanted to do it. I want to be like Bruce Lee." He says, "Well, I bet you $5 you don't stick it out." And you know, when he said that to me, that was something that really registered in my heart because everybody kept telling me in my life, you're never going to make it, you're never going to be able to do this, you're never going to be able to do that. So I said, okay. He said, I bet you $5 you don't make it. I said, I will. And that drove me to, not just for him, just for me to be able to show him one day I'm going to get my black belt. And I started taking martial arts. And, I started at 11 years old. And I started practicing, and it was days that I wanted to quit because I felt like I was working out really hard, but I couldn't get what he was telling me across because I had dyslexia. I had to have him actually stand there and throw punches with me so I could pick him up. Because, when you have dyslexia, you see things backwards. And it's kind of mixed, everything's kind of messy, And he says, listen, if you really want to do martial arts, you're going to have to go in the back of the class and do it by yourself because I don't have time to teach you by yourself. I have all these other kids. And I said, okay, no problem. So every day I should just go in the back of the class and try to follow. And where the other students could, they understood what he was talking about. So when they went to competition, they would win all these trophies. I'd go home and I'd practice every day, right? And these guys never even practice. But I'd go home and I'd practice every day and watch, and we go to competition, they win, I lose. And I was like, go home and tell my mom, Mom, I'm always in the backyard, you see me. I practice, get home from school, I practice, I get out. I go in the middle of the gym before the instructor gets there, and I work out, and I do all these things, and I'm still not winning. I want to quit. I don't want to do this anymore.
What do you think inside you motivated? I mean, you're describing an unusually driven child.
I think the main thing that motivated me was my dad. I grew up in a bad neighborhood. I mean, I've seen people get stabbed, shot, killed. I've seen all kind of things in my life as a kid growing up. And I've seen fathers turn away from their families because they couldn't, they just couldn't afford to take care of them. So some fathers would leave. My dad never left. He had 15 kids, and he stuck it out. And that always registered with me. Because, all the boys I grew up with and girls I grew up with, most of them are probably either passed away because they've done something bad or they're in prison. And my dad was very strict with all my brothers and all my sisters, and I'm glad he was, because him saying, in order for you to get anything out of life, hard work, discipline, focus, you're going to have to do that no matter what it is. And my dad couldn't even write. He couldn't even write his name. But when he passed away, he left my mom 2 houses, left him insurance policy. He actually took care of my mom well without being able to have that ability. So I always said that one day, if I ever get that opportunity, I want to be like my dad and do the things that he's done, and be better.
Well, let's skip ahead for a minute then. Karate obviously changed your life.
Well, I think martial arts changed my life because it gave me a chance to see out of my own eyes that I could be successful. Trophies didn't make a difference, but just me as a person, as a young man, seeing myself being able to pick up things, and then all of a sudden, like when I first started off, first 6 months, 9 months of karate was very hard. It was frustrating because I couldn't pick things up, and I would see other people go by me. Because even I wanted to play basketball, I wanted to play football, but when it came down to playing those sports, you had to read plays and you had to understand plays and you had to do a group of things with a group of people. So I just felt like I was going to be embarrassed to get out there and couldn't remember a play, couldn't read a play. So to me, I felt like I couldn't do that. So when karate came around, it gave me a chance at an own individual thing to test myself. So when I started, I started testing myself, and then I started seeing out of my own eyes that I could be successful. I was actually the first black belt that instructor promoted. I'm a black belt a year and a half. And it was a blessing because it really turned my whole life around.
What's your fondest or your most impressive memory then?
My first impressive memory when I was 16 years old, my instructor had a martial arts tournament. It was on September 1st, my birthday. And I was a brown belt, actually a red belt in Taekwondo. And he gave a competition, so I went and competed in the competition, and I won first place for the first time. Won first place in kata, won first place in fighting, I won first place in board breaking. And then that night, he got on the microphone and said, you know what? Billy Blank's been working out with me for so many years, and now I'm going to promote him to a black belt. I got my black belt. I didn't even know I was going to get it, but I got promoted to black belt. And then that right there just changed my whole life.
How'd that make you feel?
It made me feel like I accomplished something that nobody thought I was going to accomplish, because himself even said, you'll quit. You're not going to make it. But,
do you think he meant that?
No, I think at the time I thought he meant it. I thought he meant it as a kid, but I thought now I look at it, it was just a drive to get me going. You know, to see how much discipline and focus that I have, and I'm glad that he was my first instructor because he gave me some incentive. You know, I should go to his house, rake his backyard, clean this, do this. You know, this is show my appreciation for what he's done for me as a young man growing up. And getting my black belt in Tung Sudo, it really, really, really changed my life. Like you don't know what.
I hope you're enjoying this series with Billy Blanks. The story is so motivational. Be sure to visit our website for more episodes with Billy, as well as other fitness-related content. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Button's right here.